followed by the research design overview. This presentation is on the methodological choices of a research design. If we refer to Saunders' Research Onion, we have talked about research philosophy and approaches to theory development last week. And this week, with specific research design, and then it can include all the 3 yellow layers with reference to methodological choice, strategies, and time horizon. So this presentation, we will focus on methodological choice. As you read along Saunders' core textbook, you will understand there are a few methodological choices of a research, which refers to mono method, which is only one method applied for your research, or multiple methods. With mono, it's very simple, isn't it? It's just one method. Either you use quantitative method or qualitative method. Multiple methods can be referred to two complex concepts. One is multiple method, could be multiple quant, multiple qual. So a mixed method is different from multiple methods. So mixed methods is a combination of quantitative and qualitative research. So we're going to talk about that later. So firstly, let's understand what do we mean by quantitative and qualitative research. So quantitative research refers to the research that collects structured data that used for statistical analysis. And it's a very objective research in terms of the ontology. So you refer to the objectivism. So it can draw objective conclusions. Normally, the methods, the tools applied are surveys, questionnaires, or experiments. For if your research is qualitative, it's quite different from quantitative research. So qualitative research involving collecting data which are unstructured, so which you collect the summary, views, opinions of a particular group of people or in relation to a particular social phenomenon. So the conclusions are very subjective because you believe into subjectivism, epistemology, and ontology. So this is very, where interpretivism comes in. You interpret particular viewpoints under particular social phenomenon or particular social context. Yeah. So the common methods or tools used for qualitative research are those interviews where you go to speak to people, or focus groups, or observations. So in other words, quantitative research answers to research questions related to how many and how much, and then the data you collected from quantitative research can usually be presented in numbers. Often you can illustrate them in tables, graphs, or charts. Okay, so for example, if you're going to conduct a research looking into the factors impacting consumer behavior, where you're listing one of the questions, for example, you're listing 6 factors, and then you ask the participants to take whichever one relevant to them, and then at the very end of your studies, you look into how many collected or chosen the first choice, or how many collected or chosen the second choice. So you're presenting the findings in numbers. Yeah, so you may present them in pie chart or in tables or in graphs, which are very illustrative, but the main concern is the numbers or figures. Yeah, so normally this kind of quantitative research can be collected from a really large sample, and then as we mentioned, you may use surveys. Yeah, and then these are normally considered as very descriptive scientific approach, where you believe your ontology will be very objective, and then your epistemology will be very positivist. And then by contrast, the qualitative research would answer to research questions like what, how, and why kind of questions, where the findings may not necessarily be easily explained by figures or numbers, but more expressed in words, and are concerned about the meaning behind the words and then the way how it's expressed. Yeah, as we mentioned, it could be interviews, focus groups. You see how people, how people's views similar or different, and why is that. Okay, so quantitative research usually involves relatively smaller sample because you can't do 100 interviews in comparison to quantitative, where you can send surveys or questionnaires to hundreds of participants. Yeah, so the techniques used for qualitative research, as we mentioned, it could be interviews, focus groups, observations, which in which the researcher is involved quite a lot, and then it's kind of more time consuming in a way, and then normally the researcher is involved personally in the data collection process. And then this is normally reached via exploratory or interpretive approach or the research purpose. As we mentioned, your methodological choice is really in line with the ontology, epistemology, or methods you're adopting. Okay, so it's with reference to the research philosophy, the very art layer, first layer, and the approach to theory development, research approach. So if your research is quantitative, as we mentioned, it will be very objectivist, and positivist epistemology. If your research is qualitative, it's likely to be very subjective, where the researcher is involved and interpret a particular social phenomenon with the involvement of the researcher within it. So alignment and coherence is the key, as we mentioned before. As we mentioned before, there's a clear philosophical underpinning of quantitative research and qualitative research. So as we mentioned, objectivist ontology is related to quantitative research, while a subjectivist ontology is qualitative. And then, but there's always one in the middle, where instead of believing into reality, there's only one reality, or there's probably multiple reality or truth. So one believes into reality is constantly negotiated or debated. So that's one view in the middle. So similar to epistemology, where positivism related to quantitative research and interpretivist or constructivist epistemology refers to qualitative research, there's also one view which we call pragmatism, which relates to the middle in the view, where knowledge should be examined using best tool, not only measuring the facts, but can also be examined or explored by the social phenomenon or interaction with the particular context. So this middle view can be related to the pragmatism research paradigm, as highlighted last week, and then which can be related to a combination of both quantitative and qualitative research, which we call mixed methods. And then this can be related to abductive research approach as well. So that is to say, mixed method is a research design, is where a research involves collecting, analyzing, and interpreting quantitative and qualitative data, or involves quantitative research in one single study in order to answer a research problem or understand a particular social phenomenon. So the purpose of mixed method is to enrich research findings or increase the depth and breadth of a research findings. So mixed methods research are normally help us to understand, explain, as never before, complex social phenomena, and whether we like it or not, the world is complex and becoming more and more complex. Yeah. So therefore, a lot of time, researchers need to use both quantitative and qualitative research together to provide a better understanding of a research problem. Or when neither quantitative or qualitative on their own is able to address or answer the research question. Okay, so you may use one or the other to complement into the other for a better answer to a research question. In the meantime, it's important for us to understand mixed methods is not simply a combination of a quantitative or qualitative research or collecting a quantitative or qualitative data. And it is neither multiple methods, as we mentioned earlier, and also in the Saunders diagram. Multi-methods refers to multiple quant or multiple qual. So mixed is the emphasis of the combination of a qual and quant in the way and helps us to understand a particular phenomenon in a single study. It is merging, linking, and integrating the two, quant and qual research, in one study. And then it is research in which the researcher, which is you, collects and analyzes data and integrate the findings, and then you are able to draw inference using one or the other or both in one single project. Yeah, so you may combine them at different stages of your study, and then you may do that at the same time, concurrent or simultaneously. It is important to note some students say, oh, I'm using my research, I combine qual and quant in one study. For example, you may say questionnaires has 2 open-ended questions at the very end. So as the qualitative element of a quantitative research as a survey. And it is very arguable. Therefore, when you justify your methods, explain whether your research is qual or quant or mixed. So it's important that you don't get that mixed. You clearly justify whether it's qual or quant or mixed method, and what exactly the methods are and how you combine or integrate them together at each stage. Okay. And as a matter of fact, literature demonstrates or shows that actually the emergence of mixed method, it is from multiple methods. So where people use one method, for example, one multiple quantitative method using questionnaires, and then they may use observations, and they may analyze and then repeating the process again. It's kind of emergent, started with multiple methods, but as the social phenomenon becomes more complex, as we see, and more complex nowadays, and then gradually not only one single method, they have to combine with another particular different method for a better understanding of the social phenomenon. So a lot of the time, so they're applying the concept of a triangulation in a research, yes, so which is a kind of a strength of to strengthen one method by using another, so complementary to it. So this is where the combination and integration of qual and quant comes in, and which generates a different term, and which we call mixed methods. So we have a few scholars who have designed this diagram to look into the features of mixed methods design. So using the TTIPP. So first T refers to theoretical lens, so whether the existing theories or literature are explicit or implicit. So whether there's any existence in the relevant literature which determines whether you use the way how you use mixed methods. Yeah, the timing, so how the mixed method used, whether, as we said, concurrent or sequence, and the integration, the way how you integrate, and when you integrate the mixed method, are you integrating quantitative and qualitative data collection at the data collection stage or data analysis stage, or the analysis, interpretation stage. So there's a way where you want to integrate, the way how you integrate them are separate, and also the purpose as well. So why do you want to have this mix? What is the purpose? Yeah, we talk about later, and the priority, whether you look into the equal, want to find out consistent findings, or you want to find something different or test, the hypothesis, for example. So this is a kind of diagram can help you decide whether you need to adapt a mixed method design or not. So let's look into, first of all, the purpose of mixed methods design, which I think is vital for you to understand and explains the process of mixed methods as well. So the first purpose, as I stated in the diagram, is called triangulation, which, as we mentioned, you're using different methods to address the same phenomenon. All right, so you're using different method, quantitative and qualitative method, to look into one particular social phenomenon. The second purpose is complementarity. So which you're using different methods to address different parts of a phenomenon. Okay, different parts. Maybe it's a process. You use questionnaires to investigate, to look into when, for example, organizational change. You look into people's views of organizational change to a survey, and then later in the process, or by the end of this organizational change, you probably do an interview, see whether people's attitude towards organizational change has changed or not. Okay, so complementarity could be another purpose. So the third purpose could be development, where you're using the result of one method to inform the other. So that means you probably do a survey first and you found some themes or particular emerging key concepts, and then you now use interviews, qualitative data methods to understand the key concepts or theories, and then to test whether that's the case or not, and then probably to understand why and how. Okay, so the fourth purpose is called initiation. So where you're looking for contradictory results and using different methods to collect data and explain the discrepancy. So maybe in your research, for example, in one of your interviews or focus group discussions, you found contradictory views between people of different probably ethnicity group, for example, and then you're using, followed by these interview findings, you're using questionnaires and then addressing on people's different social cultural background, and then to explain the discrepancy, to find out a little bit more out of it. So initiations really focus on the contradictory results and where another method is used, complemented, for example, to understand the discrepancy. Okay, so the fifth purpose is called expansion. So where you're using another method to help you gain more in-depth understanding of a particular social phenomenon, or to know the breadth of the social phenomenon. So you can use different methods, address different part of a phenomenon, or you're using different methods to address on the phenomenon, at the same time, but with different skill, for example. So there are 5 purposes, and then it doesn't really matter in a way what the purpose you are, but you need to understand, what is the rationale behind you adopting mixed method. Yeah. Another aspect we can actually cover that is the timing of mixed method. So whether it's concurrent, where you're using quantitative method and qualitative method together. So for example, while you're sending out questionnaires to the target population, and then you're selecting a few to conduct interviews, in order to understand the social phenomenon, or to answer the research question. Or it could be sequential, so you do quantitative methods first and then followed by qualitative. As we said, you probably send out some surveys and then you found something interesting, and then you followed by another qualitative methods, and could be vice versa. So just concurrent or sequential. Another timing is not necessarily a concurrent or sequential. It could be a continuous process, as we mentioned. It could be a development purpose. So the timing of the mixed methods design can be referred back to the purpose of research, whether it's triangulation or complementary or complementarity, or development or initiation. Okay, so again, as I said, it doesn't really matter that much, but you need to understand yourself in order to explain in writing the whole process and the rationales behind. And as we can say, mixed method is important, and I think a good research sometimes may require mixed methods. So for a better understanding, in terms of the depth and breadth, as we mentioned, and more comprehensive understanding of a particular social phenomenon. But actually, not every single research requires mixed method, or mixed method may not necessarily be applicable to every single research. So there are issues with it. Some people use wrong mix. For example, people interview one particular target group, which is different from the one that, for example, took part in their questionnaires. So what's the point of you doing that? For example, if you have interviewed a group of students within University of Hertfordshire, our university, to understand their learning experience, for example, and then you may interview students from another different university to find out, their experience, understand why is this or that, draw from the findings from the students in UH. So that's a wrong mix, isn't it? So it's not very necessary. And sometimes an unnecessary mix is not, where there's a single study can't simply answer the question. If you want to look into, for example, analyzing some financial implications of an organization, and then you may just need to look into a few years financial performance from the annual report, and that can simply answer your research question. You may not necessarily need to interview the CEO or the employee with them. Okay, so sometimes you may need to consider how to avoid the complexity and the cost, your time and effort involved in the research, and then decide whether a mixed method is needed or not. Okay. So therefore, when you have decided to adopt a mixed method, you have to consider, whether the qual and quantitative bit, who comes first, who comes second, or whether they have any priorities, or whether they need to be done simultaneously. Okay, and what's the function or purpose of mixed method? Is that triangulation, or complementarity, or expansion, development, or initiation, as we explained? Okay, and also at which stage you need to mix these two methods. Yeah, whether it's kind of when it forms the research question, or when you go to collect the data, or when you analyze the data or interpret the data. So how would you integrate them? Okay, and is that one data strat or set, like you're using different methods separately, or you want to use two methods in one research design? As we said, you one questionnaire, you embed qualitative open-ended questions. Yeah, so that's something need to be justified and explained in your research. So therefore, if you're adopting a mixed method research approach or design, and then it's important you refer to these features of mixed methods and understanding these few elements that we have touched upon. So here are two examples of how you can use mixed methods in research projects. So the first example is not quite business related, but hopefully it gives you an idea as well. Yeah. So for example, the quality of care given to elderly people in hospitals. So the way how you can mix is, first you may want to interview some elderly people or interview their family members to understand, what do they consider and what kind of quality they have been given to them, and then you may extract some information or statistics or figures that is already available in the public domain, for example, in NHS in the UK, or health services, or some details of comparative death rates, or kind of length of stay in hospitals. So some kind of statistics already available in the public domain, and those are the stats figures in quantitative data. Yeah, and it's also important to note, sometimes with mixed method you don't have to use primary research for both sets of data, and this example shows you can use both primary ways and secondary ways to get the data as well, just to consider the constraints of your time and cost. Yeah, so the second example again is very commonly kind of knowing topics, where examine why more English students from low-income families fail to attend universities. So if you want to find out why, and the reasons, you may start with looking at the statistics in the public, government website to find out what is the figure, for example, how many students from low-income family has failed in to do that, and then give you better idea of the gap, for example, and the low attendance rate. And then you may want to go into interview some of the students who are not able to attend universities, and then from low income families. So that is to say, when you design mixed methods, you don't necessarily have to conduct mixed method using primary research. You may adopt multiple strategies as well. You may combine any of the below, primary, experiment, survey, or just archive documentary research, secondary research, or others, case studies, ethnography, action research, and also which we are going to discuss in the next presentation. So followed by methodological choice we've discussed, and with a focus on mixed method. So next presentation, we're going to talk about different strategies in relation to quantitative research, qualitative research, and mixed methods. To finish off, may I highlight the importance to engage with this module, and we're halfway through of the content and of the semester A, and I hope you have done your weekly reading and then listened to the recorded lectures and viewed the lecture slides that's relevant each week, and then you prepare your case studies for discussion in your session, and also most importantly you work on your own research project. So by now you should start thinking about your research design and how would you conduct your research. Okay, so again, you're an independent researcher and your module leader are there to help, and your tutors as well, and you also have your AB tutor support you each week, and an online library support, do your research and engage on the module side. Thank you.